Everything must change. I turned 50 this week. Everything must change. My godmother sent me 50 roses for 50 years. And even these roses, which were so fresh and beautiful on the day they arrived for my birthday, are changing. Their petals are falling. Everything must change. And I don't know about you, but it's hard. It's hard to truly embrace that process of change. And you know me, I believe in truth. I am anchored in the principles that we teach here, that we know and live into. And what I continually find myself coming up against is truth that I know that I am eternal, infinite, ageless. Coming right up against the reality that I can't quite hold that asana in yoga as long as I used to be able to. The reality that my human experience is living in. And there's this struggle that goes on between my awareness of what is possible and what I'm actually living into. And I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. I've seen 100-year-old people do incredible yoga. So why do I fall for the idea that somehow because I am getting older, that something about me is stopping me from being able to do something? So this process of embracing change is an opportunity, right? The talk is making the most of change, because change is happening, folks. Transformation is happening. And how do we make the most of it? How do we live into it fully so that we're not a prisoner to it? A quote came to me this morning as I was preparing this from, we're not in a theater. My instinct was to still say the Scottish play, because you don't say Macbeth in a theater. We're not actually in a theater. So Macbeth at one point in his journey says, I am cabined, cribbed, confined, bound in by saucy doubts and fears. Cabined, cribbed, confined, bound in by saucy doubts and fears. Because they're saucy, right? They have a life to them. They have an energy to them. And they do feel like they bind us in, that we are enslaved to something. And in preparing for the class that I'm going to be teaching on finding yourself in transition, Robert Brummett has one of the central metaphors that he uses in this book is the story of the Exodus. The story of the Exodus from Egypt, which is the story of Passover. And this story has always been incredibly relevant for me. In the Jewish tradition, it is considered the responsibility of every Jew to retell this story once a year as if they themselves had been a slave in Egypt and were now free. Now, if that is not unity principle, I don't know what is. That we are to relive this story every year as if we personally came forth from Egypt and are now free. This story is so powerful because it is a roadmap to what it is like when we try to engage with change and transformation. So you have the Israelites, and they're slaves in Egypt, and they're really unhappy. I mean, really unhappy. Their life is misery. And out of the cry for freedom, out of the cry for yearning, do we all have that yearning? Yeah. That yearning to be free? Out of that cry to be free, there is something that is born This small child, Moses, is born. Now remember, we're in unity thinking here, so all of this is living in us. So within us, something is born. And that idea, that presence, that awareness, that consciousness within us that is born becomes a prince of Egypt, a ruler of Egypt. And in the metaphysical understanding of Egypt, it is this material realm. It is the realm that we live and move and sort of interact in. And Moses is a prince of that material realm. He rules that material realm. Don't we all feel like that sometimes? Yeah. I am in control. And then something is revealed to him, the truth of who he is. The Israelite within him is revealed. Now, the Israelites in metaphysical teaching is the part of us that is yearning for wholeness. The part of us that understands there's only one presence, one life, one power. The part of us that is yearning to make that shift into the next level of consciousness. And when that arises within the prince, he can't be the prince anymore because it's not as important. It doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have the same value. And Moses, that part of us that is yearning, goes off and leaves the material realm, goes off into the desert, sees the burning bush, and learns the understanding, I am that I am. That's what Moses hears at the burning bush. I am that I am. That is what we are all being invited to understand about ourselves in the midst of our life, that we can let go of the trappings of the material realm. And there is a fire burning within us. That burning bush is your heart. That burning bush is right here. And it is saying, I am. You are. We are. And it is from that space that we are able to go back into the land of the physical and say, we are going to be free. Let my people go. Let me go. Let me transcend this level of consciousness that is holding me as a slave. Let me go. And Pharaoh needs a lot of convincing, right? You guys have all seen Charlton Heston in this movie, right? Okay, so you know this story, right? So the plagues, and there's the whole piece. It takes a lot of convincing. Can anybody relate to that? I want to change. I want to make a different choice. I want something to happen differently. Sure. Oh, no, not really. Yeah, go ahead, make a choice. You're going to change your dietary habits. And then I watch myself reaching for the croissant. Over and over and over again. Until finally, because change is inevitable, transformation is our true nature. There is the point where it has to shift. And Pharaoh says, okay, go. You're free. And the Israelites are jumping up and down, and they're happy, and they're packing all their stuff up, and they're making stuff really quick because they don't know how long this little window's going to last. Can we all relate to that feeling? Maybe this will work. Maybe this is a place where I can actually change. And they head out of Egypt. Now, in Hebrew, the word for Egypt is Mitzrayim. And the way that translates literally is the narrow place. So they are coming out of the narrow place. Where in your life are you being invited out of the narrow space, where you have limited your understanding of what is possible as your very life? Where are you being invited, like the Israelites, to head out of Egypt, to head out of the place that is familiar, but is slave? You are a slave to whatever it is. Whether it's your eating habits you're a slave to, whether it's your relationships you're a slave to, whether it's your money that you're a slave to, whatever it is that you are a slave to, come out of that narrow space. Come out of Mitzrayim. And where the Israelites end up is right at the Red Sea. They're right there at the Red Sea. And they are exuberant. They are celebrating. Can we relate to that feeling? Like, I did it. Something shifted. We've all felt that. Like, wow, something shifted. And we're just caught up in the energy and the enthusiasm of it. And then, once again, Pharaoh has a change of heart. It's a change of heart. Something within us gets scared. Something within us starts to doubt. Something within us says, this isn't familiar. This isn't what I'm used to. I don't know what this is. And the Egyptian soldiers pour out of Egypt and head down to the Israelites. And the Israelites start freaking out. They see the Egyptians bearing down on them with their chariots and everything else. I know that in my life, there's those moments when the doubts and the fears and the worries just feel like an avalanche that's just pouring in on me. And the Israelites are stuck right here in this not fully formed space between the Red Sea, how do I get by that? And the force of the old habits and the old patterns and the old ideas bearing down upon them. And it's in this moment that Miriam begins to sing. Miriam stands on the very top where everyone can see her. And she sings. She sings a song of faith. She sings a song of what is possible. She sings a song of what we are asked to do, which is to let go of everything that we had before. In order for the Israelites to move through that Red Sea, they have to let go. They have to be willing to surrender and to fall into the unknown. Can you hear your Miriam singing to you the song of your heart? Lamont?
There's a moment
Moses said to the people, "Do not fear. Stand firm and see the salvation that the Lord will provide for you today. For the Egyptians that you see today, you will never, ever see again. The Lord will fight for you. You have only to keep still." Never, ever see the Egyptians again. I have only to keep still. Just like we did. That was powerful, yes? It's powerful. And it's where we begin. But there's more. The text continues. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. And as for you, lift up your staff, extend your hand towards the sea, and divide it." Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. And as for you, lift up your staff, extend your hand towards the sea, and divide it. Where are you still waiting for the miracle to show up somehow outside of you? Where are you still waiting for something, someone to come along and do the work for you? To divide the sea for you? I love it. Tell the Israelites to move on. Sometimes it's translated into move forward. Move on. Move forward. This work happens through us. It doesn't happen to us. It happens through us. You know, when the Israelites get on the other side of the Red Sea, because Moses does do that, right? He holds out his hand, he holds out his staff, and he divides it. The obstacle, the seeming obstacle, literally is divided. And the Israelites are able to move to an entirely new level of consciousness. They are able to move to a completely different way of being, of living, of understanding life. And as the Red Sea closes behind them, the Egyptians, you will never, ever see them again. And there they are, on the other side of the Red Sea. And what do they start doing? What do we start doing? They start freaking out. They start freaking out. What do we do? Why are we here? What are we going to do here? And Moses takes them to Mount Sinai. And he leaves for 40 days. He goes up into the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. And while he's up there, right, consciousness, in connection, communing with the divine, all those thoughts start getting really active. And they build the golden calf. Does everybody remember this scene in the movie?
Great dance number.
It's a great dance number. You will never ever see the Egyptians again. They are on the other side of the Red Sea. And what do? They start building Egypt. They choose to rebuild the very thing that they have just left behind. How often do we do that? How often? I love this story because it brings me such comfort. Because I'm like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I'm not. This is what we do. This is how we process change. We take big steps, and then we freak. And we kind of fall backwards. And then we have to take another step. So they build the golden calf. And Moses comes down, and what does he do? He freaks out. He totally loses it. He smashes the 10 Commandments, storms back up the hill again to go get another set. You know, in this story, Moses, so after this whole thing happens, right, the Israelites wander in the desert for 40 years. Now, 40 is a mystical number. 40 is the time of transformation, 40 days, 40 nights, the ark, the flood, Jesus in the desert, right? All this number comes up over and over and over again because it is the number for transformation. And so within those 40 years, which could be a heartbeat, because it's just a number that signifies transformation. In those 40 years, as the Israelites are wandering in the desert, they keep freaking out. I mean, there's miracle after miracle after miracle, and the Israelites keep freaking out. Well, where are we going to get food? Oh, manna from heaven. But no, we're still not going to be taken care of. Where are we going to get water? Oh, there's water. No, we're still not getting taken care of. Over and over and over again. Does this sound familiar? Until they have been in the desert for so long that none of the generation that was actually enslaved is still alive. The thoughts that are connected to the ideas we have that enslave us have to die away. And we have to give them the time and the space to be able to do that. And the way we do that is by meeting ourselves in compassion. We have to meet ourselves in compassion. Now, out of everyone who leaves Egypt, there's only 2 people that actually enter the land of milk and honey, that enter the promised land, which, remember, isn't a literal place. It's a state of consciousness. And it's Miriam, who sings in faith, and Joshua, whose trumpet can drop the walls around our hearts. And interestingly enough, Joshua helps make the golden calf. Joshua actually assists in the making of the golden calf, and yet he is allowed into the land of milk and honey, whereas Moses isn't. Moses is not allowed into the land of milk and honey, and my personal opinion about why that is so is because he did not meet the Israelites in compassion. He met them in anger. He destroyed the law out of anger when he saw the golden calf, rather than meeting it with love and grace and truth. He broke something. So where in our own lives do we not meet ourselves in compassion? When we build our golden calves, when we build the idols that we bow to that are not truth, do we meet ourselves in compassion when we're in the desert of the not knowing and we're not at the promised land yet, and all we can do is know that it's there because we have faith of Miriam singing in our heart, and we don't know where the water is, and we don't know where the manna is, and we freak out? Can we have compassion for ourselves as we learn to trust the activity of the divine operating as our life? We have habitual thinking, which is the Egyptians. We have magical thinking, which is, I don't really have to do anything, it'll all just happen to me. And then we have what I like to call miracle being. And this story is all about how do we navigate miracle being. And as you can tell by the journey of the Israelites, which is our journey, we are the Israelites. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of feeling lost. There's a lot of not knowing. And yet ultimately, they arrive. They arrive. They are guided to the place, to the land of milk and honey. Tell the Israelites to move on. How do we move on? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. That's how we move on. Forgiving ourselves for all the ways we see that we fail. Forgiving ourselves for our golden idols, our golden calves, and our loss and our not enoughness. Forgiving ourselves for all the ways that we don't think we're living into our greatest yet to be. Compassion for the fact that this is exactly the way it works. We are right where we need to be. Always. Always we are right where we need to be. You know, Myrtle Fillmore, who founded Unity, her transformation of consciousness is a story of forgiveness. As she was ill, diagnosis of tuberculosis, what she did was forgive herself for all the ways that she thought of herself as sick. She forgave herself for all the ways that she denied the truth of her body temple. She forgave herself for all the ways that she couldn't see. She held herself in compassion. This is how we move forward. Because without forgiveness, we are sowing amongst the thorns and the brambles of our resentments and our frustrations and our anger. And guess what? What you sow, you reap. This story is an opportunity for us to understand the journey that is involved when we actually engage with this process called transformation. And it is an opportunity for us to stand in our compassion and claim the practice of forgiveness. There's this beautiful poem that I found. It's called The Healing Time. Finally, on my way to yes, I bump into all the places where I said no to my life. All the unintended wounds, the red and purple scars, those hieroglyphs of pain carved into my skin, my bones, those coded messages that send me down the wrong street again and again. Where I find them, the old wounds, the old misdirections, and I lift them up, one by one, close to my heart, and I say, holy, holy. Can you hold it all as holy? The journey and the arrival? Can you forgive and move on? We're going to take this into a guided meditation around forgiveness.